like drama, we got it. If you like sports, yeah, we got it. You like politics, promise we got it. Report everything hot at this college. PG News, yeah, right off the press. Reporters and filmers, PG got the best. Information that you need is reported. Make sure y'all tune in for what's happening next. If you like drama.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of PGCC Perspective. I'm your host, Mattia Bryant, giving you the latest on all things political, platonic, and problematic. Happy Women's History Month, guys. Today is a commemorative holiday to salute badass women who are changing the game when it comes to media, entertainment, and all things in between. March 8th was International Women's Day, and what a better way to kick off this first episode with two very special guests.
Special guests? You must not know. We have two amazing radio personality icons in the building. Who do we have with us today?
You go first.
I go first. They call me Angie Ange, aka your royal hypeness once upon a time, but I'm much calmer these days.
That wasn't very hype.
It wasn't hype. That was when I was in my 20s, early 20s.
That's all right. Well,
Now
I'm
it's
Little
just
Bacon
Ange.
Bear, and this is still just Ange. And I'm just Little Bacon Bear. On the airways, I say my favorite tarot, Little Bacon Bear, or your favorite tarot, just because I like to be that. But Little Bacon Bear simply.
If you're from the DMV, y'all should know who Angie and Little
Yeah,
Bacon
stop
Bear is.
playing,
Come on.
y'all.
Y'all know
Stop
y'all be
playing.
in a long car rides home from school, and your mom got 93.9 on, and you know who you're listening to. So.
Hopefully.
That part, absolutely. It's radio. That's the cool thing about radio is you get to if you can last long enough, you get to like grow up with people. So you know, once upon a time, you may have been on your school bus or in your parents' car, and now you're in college, and that's what I always thought was cool about radio was the ability to grow up with my audience. So it's dope that you. That's your memory. Like you think about when you think about an Angie Ange, you think of Little Bacon Bear. Most people, you go back to the days that you sit in your car or in your house doing your homework, whatever, and we were right there with you. So that's cool.
But to that point, you know, we're moving even away from like the point in where like the radio is sometimes the introduction that these people have to us. It's the internet sometimes first. You see an interview, you see a clip, you see a tweet, you can catch a moment. Someone says their name, and then that's the way that you build around it, and it becomes like a buzz that way. So I think it works in both directions.
Definitely.
So, where did you guys get your start in radio?
She's gonna keep going. You wanna go first?
My start in radio was in college. So, you know, originally I went to Howard University thinking that I wanted to do television at first because I wanted to be on BET and MTV. That's all I did. I watched music videos religiously, and I knew I wanted to be in the music business, but I couldn't sing, I can't dance, I can't rap. So it was like, okay, what you gonna do? How you gonna be in the industry if you can't do any of those things? But I could talk, and I was cool, and people gravitated to me. And so I was listening to Big Tigger and Live Squad and Russ Parr, Donnie Simpson. So I'm listening to these people. I'm like, okay, I want to do that, but I didn't know that it was a career. I thought it was a hobby. When I would listen to these folks in my head. And so by high school, I learned that you could get paid for it. You could live off of it. So I was like, word, I could live doing it?
I can function by talking?
Yeah, I was like, you can make a living off of this, like a legitimate living? Because, you know, I always thought, you think about career day, that you're either going to be a lawyer, a doctor.
Why are you stealing my story? Because, I'm feeling, yes, that's literally it.
Happened to you. So I didn't know that you could do this and make a living. And so once I figured that out, I was like, okay, I need to go to a good school for radio, for journalism, because I realized you get paid, you get the job if you study journalism at the time. So I looked at Syracuse, Temple, and Howard was like at the last of my list because I wanted to get out of PG County. I'm from here. I grew up here. Both my parents from Northwest DC. So I was like ready to go. I didn't want to be, I felt like this wasn't a realistic space, right? Everything was black. So I'm thinking, I need to be in a different environment.
Right.
So then I go to, I looked at Syracuse. Syracuse is very difficult to get into, but I get into it. Found out that they have a lot of snow. It's an upstate. And I don't do good with snow in DC. So I was like, all it took was like one picture of these kids going to school and snow that was like up to their head. Yeah. And I said, it's like that. Yeah, I'm not going to go. Keep in mind, I did so much to try to get into that school. So a big lesson to learn is always visit the school. Don't just go to a school because the brochure looks good. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to Temple. It's in Philadelphia. That's not far from home, but it's still giving me city life. And I'm close to New York because I kept thinking I need to be in New York. Go to Temple. Loved everything about Temple except for one thing. When I went into their television station, they were just like, I was like, when can I get started? You know, I knew what I wanted to do. And they were like, well, we're a larger school, so, you know.
You got to work your way up.
You got to work your way up. It might take you till sophomore year, junior. So I was like, okay, all right, cool. And then I go to Howard reluctantly. My mom went to Howard. My aunts went to Howard. I grew up at Howard, going to all the homecomings. So I was like, But then they have a really good school of journalism, school of communication. So I said, well, let me just go up here and just, you know, let me just
fool with these folks right quick.
Let me just go see. So I go for a visit, and it was very hot. It was in the summertime. I go for a visit, but I had never been at, all the times I had gone to Howard, I had never been there as a prospective student. I go to Howard, and now I'm looking at what could I be there as a student, right? And I get on the yard, and I could just feel the ancestors. I don't know if it was just because it was really hot.
Wow.
But, you know, the way the yard is centered, the sun just beams on it. So I get up there, and I could feel Frederick Douglass. I could feel seriously, I could feel the spirit. And I'm like, wow, this is powerful. So then they take us into a room, and they got these upperclassmen to tell you, like, you know, what they like about
Yeah, they start bringing you on in.
And, well, so this guy, I'll never forget, dude from Chicago, he's in School of Business. He had these long dreads, and he has a nice suit on. He gets up, he says, you know, the thing, they all had to say what they like about Howard. And I wasn't really listening to any of it, but this guy gets up, he says, the thing I like the most about Howard is its diversity. I'm looking.
Wait, Howard
In
is
what way?
diverse?
I'm like,
Well, there's diversity in black people, so maybe
There
that's
you
where
go.
he was going.
So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm like, diversity.
We're
It's
not a
black
monolith.
school. But he proceeds to talk about how, you know, just the different cultures and the different people and all the differences that we are coming together on this campus. And I had never thought about it like that. So that ultimately, that, and then I go to the radio station. I went to WHUR, I went to the television station, WHUT. I said, yo, when can I get started? And they said, you could get started today.
Sit on down.
They were the
Here's
only
your mic.
two. They said, if you know what you want to do, you can get started today. That was the biggest selling point. So my radio career literally started at Howard as like freshman year. I started in television at WHUT, which I'm back there now as director of content.
Sure.
Started there.
Bomb drop.
And then did the radio station. I fell in love with radio because I could sit on this microphone, play my music, put my headphones on, sit in a box, nobody.
Yeah, I was about to
bothered
say
me.
nobody in the room with.
Yeah, and just jam out. And so, and I could do all that in my pajamas. So I was
Yup.
like, oh,
And
this-
it always
this is
sounded
my-
like you was always wearing pants.
See,
Oh,
you could do
man.
it with no pants. You could do, you know, and have a great time. And so my radio career literally started at Howard and went to PGC when I graduated, and then KYS after that for the next 15 years until I left.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's kind of never changed now, because I went to Morgan for fall semester, and they was because this is kind of what I wanted to do, and they was telling me how I have to wait until my sophomore, junior year before I could even get started with anything. So coming to PG, I kind of like how they embraced me, you know, so I like how that never changed. So if you wanted to get started with something like that, don't be shy to stay where you are, because a lot of people want to get people started.
But
at the moment.
I'll say this, like, being at PG is special because I went here too. Like, you have to be really a pioneer of your own career, because there's just as many microphones in the world outside of this building as there is, you know, to still get this job done. And so if you want to be that person, or you want to be that talent, or that's what you're trying to curate, you might as well go ahead and just do that. Maybe school isn't the way that shapes that. Maybe it's real life experience that shapes it better for you.
Right,
Oh,
right.
definitely. I also want to add, like, Angie, like you were saying, like, escapism was a huge, like, theme for me, especially in my college decision. I was like, I hate PG County. I gotta get out of here. It's too black. It's too black.
Too black.
It's too
And I kept telling myself that, like, I really wanted to go into, like, performing arts and theater. I guess, not to brag, but I guess I was pretty good in high school. I would get, like, praises, so I automatically assumed, you know, I don't have to try anymore, because everybody's, like, telling you what I'm capable of doing. I can just go to performing arts school. I went to SCAD for, like, a semester, flunked out. And I was, like, so stuck. I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I feel like I rush things. And so I really think coming home like to PG County and just being embraced here at the college has gave me like such a profound sense of like self. And I've learned so much about myself when it comes to what I want to do within the mass media industry. And also, like Zay was mentioning in the very beginning, like we've grown up listening to you guys on the radio. So it's kind of like a full circle moment now that we're older and we're pursuing the same thing you guys were doing 20 years ago and so on. So
kind of paved the way for the youth now.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty much.
Fire. Well, admittedly, I will say that transition between high school and college is a really big leap, and it can be, Angie she was talking about it, like if you're not superior in the classroom or you're not sure where you're excelling, it can be honestly really just disconcerting and confusing as to what you're going to do next if your classmates are going to go be doctors and lawyers and things, and the only thing you can kind of do is be fun or charismatic, and you're trying to find a place to be in that. College can be a really like terrible experience or tough experience really just to deal with. Like I remember friends that I went to school with who were athletes. They were really, really good in high school, and then when they got to college they were like, oh my God, everybody else is really good too. I'm not the only one that's really good. Like it really just helps shape your world and find out where you really are in the rat race of the general world, rather than just the community that you know.
Definitely. So how do you guys think that your experience, not just in college but in high school as well, how has that shaped who you are today? Not even just in like your profession, but as a person.
I would say, it's all about the long play. I would say, like the kids that you thought in high school were going to be great, or just like they peaked in high school. I think that's just a very simple phrase, But we're all running our own race, and I think also like as a young professional, when you log on Facebook and you start seeing kids, you start seeing marriages, you start seeing all these things. There's like this external peer pressure sometimes to have also participated in those things, but. Is that really happy to you at 25? Is that really happy to you when you can be at the BET Awards? Is that really happy to you when you can be spending your afternoon doing things like this? Like, is that really what happiness looks like? There are so many different forms that were available, but there was only one perspective being offered.
I definitely feel like I'm one of those, the person I was from the very beginning is like the same person I am, just like in adult form. So I was always like the team leader. I was always the team captain. I was always the person that when nobody wanted to speak up, I'm going to speak up. That's always been who I am. It just changes. The mediums change over time. So even at KYS or anywhere that I was, it was always like I stood out as a leader. Not just a radio personality. I'm going to be the captain of our crew. Like I'm going to lead us. I'm going to, fight for us and, not just doing a radio show. And so that has now led into what my second chapter in life is, post radio. Right now I'm actually in leadership now. I'm in an executive role. So from the time I can remember, it's almost like I've been this type of person, but it just has manifested in various things. So I think a good thing to try to work on is figure out, like at your core, who you are and I'm not a radio personality. I'm a communicator. I'm a coach. I'm a
liaison.
I'm a cheerleader. I'm a liaison.
An elder, a figure.
That you got to
a philosopher, a thought process.
Because if you only think about what you do, you're going to
limit
struggle.
Yourself.
Yeah, you're going to struggle a bit, right? Because radio is just a medium that you might use. Like Bacon said, you might be charismatic. Charismatic can transfer into any career field, and so sometimes you got to be careful about just defining yourself as an artist or a radio personality. No, you're artistic. You might, and in your art, you might be someone who's good at putting things together and managing things, or you might be good at performing in some regards. But what does that mean in other spaces?
To that point, adaptability becomes a thing. Like there are people who sometimes can be better hosts on the radio that may not translate to a party, and vice versa. Some of these skills just need a little bit of more fine tuning, and they can exist in a better place sometimes. You know what I mean? You just got to find what works for you.
So
what can you sustain?
How would you say that networking has helped your career get to where it is now and building your craft into something bigger?
you got to foster good relationships, because you just never know who you're going to need, from the janitor to the manager to leadership on down. You really never know, because people get fired every day, people get hired every day, positions change every single day, and better yet, you just never know who really is the button pusher when it's all said and done. Sometimes there are times where I thought that this is the person that was going to be able to move it all the way, but no, it was actually that person over there that was the button pusher, the boss. So you never really want to underestimate who really might be the boss in the room.
So is there a time in your career where it was like you had a relationship that went bad, that you feel like that could have helped you out, that it went bad on your end or anything, or you feel like all the relationships you've had has?
People cut me deep every day. What do you mean? But I mean, adulthood is really about navigating those relationships when they are uncomfortable, because you don't get to turn away from every uncomfortable situation that you're in adulthood. Like, sometimes you have to work in spaces with personalities that you just don't lean into, or that you wouldn't bond with, or that which you wouldn't go out to drinks with. But that ain't what we're here to do. We're here to do a job, and as long as we're here to do our job, everything usually pans out fine.
Yeah. And going back to networking, I say even more important than networking is the way you position yourself, because people will always come up to, and I'm sure Bacon, they come up to you all the time, and play my song on the radio, or I'm an artist. That's like what you did, right? That's not networking. That's soliciting, right? Networking is when you, because everything kind of comes down to who knows you, not necessarily who you know.
Right.
So while you thinking you got to get in these rooms to give people your card, like, no, you need to be in a position to be in a room where there are important people who will see you do what you do. So instead of trying to focus on getting in front of them or getting to know them or meet them, the goal is, if I know that Bacon is going to be at my school, then I'm going to find a way to perform in front of her, because I want her to see who I am. Right. Not because I want to run up to her and say, can you play my song? No, I'm not
even going to ask her for anything. Right. I'm going to say, hey, my name is Jervon, and I'm a rapper, and that's my name.
And I'm going to do so good on that stage in front of Bacon that she's going to come to me and say, yo, I need to get you on Versus. What's your name? For sure. And so when you focus more on how to position, that was what I always did. My strategy at Howard was, I've got to get in front of the right people. I wasn't worried about meeting them. I just needed them to hear my voice. I knew if they heard me, I knew it was going to work. And that's exactly what happened. The right party, the right executives were there. My mentor at the time that I was interning for, Adimu, same thing. He would have never given me the mic if he didn't come to the club and see me do my thing. It's not until he come to the club, see me do my thing, that he's like, oh, you really know what you're doing. So then when it was like an event, it was a PGC event, and all the big bosses were there because this was an important event. And you know what he did? He said, yo, get on this mic. He said, get on the mic. And he gave me 5-10 minutes to turn into the rest of the night.
Oh, wow.
5 or 10 minutes is
5-10 minutes.
That's enough time right there.
No one asked for the mic back. And so I rocked that. It was me and Quicksilver. Then lo and behold, we ended up doing a show together. But Quick was DJing. They gave me the mic. And after that, it was the program directors, and it was those people who were there. They heard me, so they had seen me because I was in there every day. I was an intern, but they didn't hear me. And when they heard me, that's when it was like, oh wait. And then my mentors, going back to what Baker said about relationships, because I have good relationships at that point. Then people started vouching for me, because that's the other part. Who's vouching for you? If other people don't brag on you, you're the only one that can brag on yourself. Then you're not ready to come in
who's
front
even
of a
demanding? Who's demanding you, asking about you, caring about you? Why should I care? Yeah. Like that. Yeah. That's been a premise that you learned in school when you were writing a paper. Like, why should I care? So the same thing is to be said with value in relationships. Like, why should I care? I know a million artists. I know a million radio personalities. I know a million rising DJs. But show me what you do. I am the biggest thing here, and here's the stat that proves it. Here is what I do, and here's how I've already done it. I've already brought the idea. I didn't offer you any talk. I offered you the action.
Because we're going to go to your page. We're going to look you up.
Man, people be ready to be my intern every day, and I go to your page, and you're not even interning. You're not interning for nothing else. You're not even interning for yourself. I don't see a camera or a microphone anywhere on this page. Wow. You don't even got it in your bio, so you're not even pretending it. So it's like, so when did you become like you got to be halfway in it somewhere. You got to
people
put
really
it
be like
something
in the moment, just like, oh, I'm this, that, and the third, when they really not. They just in the moment because you're there.
Well, and it becomes, tiring to weed through the excitement, but that's where you find really cool and talented people, sometimes it's about funneling and getting that energy and that urgency and bottling it up. And that's how you become like a good mentee.
To bounce off of that, my professor, I don't know if you know who Lou Holder is, but he's my professor. And
yes, Mr. Holder.
Yeah, a while back he said it's not just what you know, but who you know and who knows you. So I think that goes back into our conversation, and I think I was kind of lacking in that as well, because speaking, I'm guilty. I used to just throw myself at people and be like, hey,
we all do.
Hey, I do this, I do that, but I hadn't acted on a stage in 3 years. It's like, girl, what can you bring to the table? What sets you apart? So my question for you guys is, when somebody is ready to put in the work, how would they go about doing it without coming off as if they're just like everybody else?
You just go put in the work. Because in the same way that you're logging on Instagram wondering what content that you can make that's going to turn the corner, I'm also logging on the internet trying to figure out what content is going to turn the corner. Like, we are all running our race. So if you said to me, I want to be a radio personality, I watched 5 videos on YouTube about air checks. Can you provide me a little bit more clarity about what an air check is? I'd be like, oh, okay, well, they did a little bit of research before they walked into my DM, and I might provide some clarity from there. But you have to do the work. You have to literally put those pieces already in action before you even get to that person. What makes you stand out? What makes you excel? If you were excelling in class, you got to still excel in other people's DMs. What makes you stand out? And it's not just saying something outlandish. It's the work.
Sorry.
You
Okay.
stumbled there.
Yeah, I stumbled. I was like, that was deep. But
I was waiting to go to my DMs and see who solicited today.
So, quick question: being some of the biggest faces in the DMV from DJ and radio, what would y'all
biggest
say?
Biggest voices or biggest faces?
Biggest faces, biggest voices, biggest everything. You know what I'm saying? Coming here at a young age, and what was your mindset coming into this intense male dominating industry?
Well, I don't know if I came in with a mindset at all. I think the mindset began to shape itself around me. Like, I was going to be a woman kind of as I just had decided I was who I was. But it began to, the lessons began to shape themselves around me. I began to figure out how to move and what was a good time and place, what seems tactful, because just adulthood is really hard. Conversation is really hard. Getting to know people is really hard. But also learning your way and learning through that can be difficult as a woman anywhere. So,
Yeah, I think you don't really, the whole male dominated space, it's very tough. And I think the industry, the media industry, the entertainment industry in general is not nice to women. It's not nice to black women. But you kind of, I don't want to say you're used to it. It's kind of like, okay, like,
you have
but
tough
does
skin.
that stop you? Yeah, it doesn't really stop anything. I think my big focus would be like, I didn't want to be, because I remember it would be like, you're good for a girl, or you're a good woman, and I really wanted to get beyond that and just be like, I wanted to be known as one of the best radio personalities, hands down, and women a lot of times don't, especially in this market, don't get put in that situation to lead shows or to lead,
especially by yourself.
Yeah,
especially by yourself. Like,
And
you sure you don't need no help?
They
You sure
always
you
want
don't
you
need
to have
no?
a man. They
sure
always
you
want
don't?
you to have a man, and that's frustrating, right? That's annoying, but it shouldn't stop anything, right? Same with like racism or anything like it's there. It's there. You're gonna encounter it, but it shouldn't stop anything you got going on. It's more of an annoyance than anything. But what I would like to see change, which I do think is changing, as different leaderships, different people get out of leadership and new people come into leadership, right? Is this understanding that it's not you're good for a woman, or
how about you're just good?
You're just good. So if you're good, have at it, as opposed to looking at a woman and thinking immediately who will be her male counterpart, because they definitely don't do that with men. If a man wants to do a show by himself, no one's sitting there like, where's your woman?
Right.
If a man is hooking up his DJ equipment, nobody's asking him if he needs any help hooking it up. Why did you book me to ask me to come here? Nobody's walking up to a man at the DJ booth and is like, oh my God, who's the DJ right now?
Right.
While they're DJing.
Yeah.
That only happens to women. Like, I'm suddenly invisible or incapable or unable, as if I didn't put this equipment in my trunk to get here to lift it again.
So has there ever been a time in your career where y'all have been turned down from something because of your gender or your race?
You'd have to ask them that. I don't know. They were like, no, with your black ass. Like, no. You know what? Someone asked me to change my name. They asked me to not be Little Bacon Bear, and they wanted to pay me $50 for the night to prove that I needed to be
Not
there.
for the night.
For the night. He said, I have to
$50?
prove my way in. He's like,
cool.
can we put something else on the flyer? I said, no, Little Bacon Bear's fine, and I won't be here at all. And I still haven't.
On the flyer.
I still have not been.
Your name will not be on the flyer. I'll say the first time I experienced just like that gender, when it first like really smacked me in the face, was when I was doing the night show. So when I first started doing nights at KISS, and again, the idea, what part of this is old school mentality, that you have to remember, at one point, women were not allowed to be on radio. You weren't allowed, not that you didn't get opportunity, you were not allowed to speak on a radio. That was a man's job, right? Mm-hmm. Now, and Donnie Simpson would talk to me about this, how he brought the first woman on to speak on radio,
really?
like
Oh
with
my
him,
gosh.
not in radio.
I
in
was
the
going to say,
world, no.
it's like, Johnny, what?
But at the station. And he talks about this, Donnie Simpson's a good guy to talk to, because he was in it when women were not welcome. Like, when the thought was you should not even be speaking. And if you do speak, give the time and shut up, woman. You know, at best, right?
Wow.
Say your tidbit of gospel.
Yeah,
and go.
and go. So, like, we're just going to have you here just because. Keep in mind, radio literally targets women, but that's a whole nother situation, right? We're using men to target women, but okay. So anyway, when I had so again, imagine you go from women not being allowed to be on radio to women do get on radio, but they have very minimal roles, to
And
always just being
the only type of role also,
And
like
you
the
get
type of news in which you can report, and the type
Mm-hmm.
of things in which they're looking for you, the perspectives and views. Like, don't be too contrarian. Do not. You only hear the gossip. You better keep it cute, girl.
Yeah.
All of these perspectives.
So so again, by the time I get into radio, now you do have very successful women. At that point, you have but they would have been in like a New York, which of course is usually gonna be a little bit more progressive, right? So you had like an Angie Martinez at that point, who was big on her own, Wendy Williams, Miss Jones in the morning. You had examples of women-led shows and big day part. When I say big shows, women-led, you're talking your mornings and afternoon drives. Those are the big day parts. Those are the money-making day parts, right?
Right.
A lot of times it's not women in those day parts, or they're like the sidekick to the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I start doing nights, when it's me and Quick, it's position, and granted, like, he had been in it longer. I was still young, fresh, new, whatever. But after 2 years, Quick left. He said, he wanted to travel more. He had just started his family. So he was like, I'm gonna leave.
Right.
And he knew I wanted to do that show by myself. So I remember he told me about it. He said, yo, this is your chance. Like, this is your, go do it. And we both thought, okay, he gonna tell him he gone, and they gonna let me do my thing.
No.
Right? That would have made sense. At that point, we had done the show together. I produced the show. I put the show together.
Well, I'm pushing the buttons.
I'm pushing the buttons on the show. So he tells him he leaves. We're thinking I'm going to get the show. And they were like, you have to find another, we need to find another male for you. And I just was like, why? Like, I want to do it by myself. And they were like, no. So they started to audition me with men. And I think it was the most insulting thing to me that here I was, I had gone to college for radio. Like, I'm a professional.
Right.
They would audition me with rappers, DJs, as long as you're a man.
As long as you can talk and you as a guy.
Wow.
And so they would make me come up on my off time, because we couldn't do it during the air. So I would have to come up before my show based on their schedule and audition with them. People who had no experience, people who had no real talent to do this, but because they're a man and we need a man on this show, after I'm saying I don't want to do that, that was very insulting, and that was very tough. And I knew that, and I would ask myself, imagine if I'd have left, would they have done that to Quick? Would they have made Quick go find another woman, or would they have let him just do his thing? And then if he did happen to find a woman along the way that made sense, cool. But with me, it was different. And it's funny because Olivia Fox, who was a part of Russ Parr's show, she, at the time, in the studio that they were auditioning me in, she's in the studio across from me. And she's just watching it, right? She's watching it. She don't say nothing, but she's watching. And I think you could tell, like, on my face just how frustrated or mad, hurt I was. And so one day she pulls me into her studio, and she was just like, she's like, I know what they're doing. I see what they're doing. She said, you keep going. She said, you keep going. And she said, just, you know, like, she did, that's what she told you. And it meant so much to me because I grew up listening to her. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. But I was ready to just be like, F this, give it all up, whatever. And I had a promo person. I talked to Bacon about this. This is called redirection, because I was so frustrated. I was so mad. I was so insulted. And they stayed, you know, they were still like, okay, and you're still going to we're still going to find a male counterpart. This goes on for almost like a year plus, right?
Wow.
I had a promotion dude, Ill Will. God rest his soul. He passed away. Yeah. Ill Will is why everybody's watching this. That's the other part. Imagine your whole team is watching. Don't nobody say nothing. No one.
So this is also reinforcing the idea that you are not competent
Yeah.
amongst other people.
Yeah.
So other people are reflecting like,
Yeah.
oh, she really can't do it by herself. Look how many people they need to bring in
Yeah.
help on.
Or they watching like, damn, when I'm gonna get my chance.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
like they a lot of times
Let
they
me
just
talk
waiting
with
to see
you
what,
too.
right. And a lot of times they gonna see if they can get on, or they, you know, whatever. But what Ill Will did one day, he comes in, he says, you know what, Ann? She said, look, he said, man, forget them. We're going to go to every football game. We're going to go to every basketball game. He's like, Quan, she's our promotion person. He's like, Quan, give me the keys to the Hummer. We can go anywhere. He's like, I got the keys. And he all I had to do was give him a bag of Doritos. He said, just give me some snacks. Because he was real sick. He's like, just give me some snacks. And Will was really, really sick. And when I tell you, he drove me to every game. And he would walk me into the football field, right? He'd walk me, because again, I'm still kind of new. I'm young. I don't really know how to talk to people. I'm not good at like, hey, I'm Angie Enns. Can I get on? He would walk me up to the football, you know, where the announcers are. He'd go in there, because it's all men in there too.
Yeah,
like
they're
that's
looking
also
at
like
you.
walking into the Lions Den. So
Every
he would
time.
go in there. He said, hey fellas, you know, he talked to them. He said, yo, this is Angie Enns. KYS, can she get on for a second? Oh yeah. They let me get on. I'd be like, yo, what's that? So people would hear my voice and get hyped. Then I'd be like, yo, can I shout you out on the radio later? Yeah. So I get on the radio, shout them out. So I kept doing this. Guess what? After a while, they stopped auditioning me with people. After a while, like, and what's crazy is no one ever said, oh, we wrong or we're going to stop. No one ever says anything.
No.
They just stopped. And after that, for the next, 4 years straight, it was my show. And then that led me to be able to do afternoons and mornings, everything else. And no one's ever been like, where's your co-host? Because I do it myself.
Come on now.
But that was very clearly like gender bias in so many ways, you know, and there's not a lot of things you could do. But the question becomes, what do you do when you don't see options? You got to remember there's always another way. But I needed that. Had it not been for Ill Will, I probably would have been so mad, frustrated. I'd have got so bitter. But he helped like redirect me. And sometimes you need to be redirected when it's not going your way, because you're not going to get it your way. Sometimes it is what it is, right? But that doesn't mean you can't build another way. And that's part of like the blueprint that I was able to create in radio for myself that now others can do. No one's questioning Bacon when she comes to do night show anymore. No one's sitting there like, we need you to have a man or you can't do the show.
Yeah, we climbed over that hill.
We climbed over
it real
and now
fast,
she got
too.
new hills, right? You don't have that issue but now she'll have her hills, and she's climbing her hills for the next person that'll come after her. And so all of us have those. There's all kinds of just gender biases that are based in just the history of how these industries have been built. Yeah, they're built in. So it does take a little time, but redirection is very important in anything you do if you're gonna stay in it. Otherwise, you might give up along the way. It's very easy to throw your hands up in this stuff.
Okay, I'm so sorry, y'all. That was really good, and I really want you guys to understand. I know you guys get this all the time, but you were paving the way for so many young
people.
Black women.
So many people.
So many. Like, literally just sitting here in a room with you guys is just so, like, overwhelming. You guys inspire me so much, and everybody else listening. So, as we're starting to wrap up, tell us what's next. I know, Angie, you left WKYS not too long ago. You have your own digital media company. Come
I do.
on now.
I do.
What's next for
Congratulations.
you?
38 Madison. I
I'm gonna
named
start
it.
throwing up gang signs.
38, yo, 38.
30,
I should do. I need some hands up.
Nerds.
Yep, I named 38 Madison. I named it after my grandmother's house in
Mm-hmm.
DC, and because that house was so welcoming of everybody, and so I wanted to create a platform that welcomes everybody, all different types of people and opinions and thoughts and all that. And so we started with podcasting. We do a lot of marketing. I'm like a whole marketing agency when it comes to activating new talent or activating right now we're activating a lot of basketball players into the market and things like that. We're working on NIL stuff with student athletes, right? That's a whole nother space. So I started that and been doing that, but then I also said, well, I want to get back to my university and I want to develop myself as a leader. So like I always knew I was a leader, but then there's the skill set of leading and managing. And so I took the role as director of content at Howard University Television in August of last year. I did that because I really wanted to say, okay, I want to prove myself now as a leader. I proved myself as a talent. Now I want to prove myself as a leader and a decision maker and someone that can help, create vision that will help other artists like yourselves be able to do your thing. So that's really my next. And then I'm an investor in multiple businesses and companies, restaurants, and
she just doing her thing. You know what I'm
She
saying?
gives me a proper business plan.
I don't need no business plan.
want
I
to-
am
what
the
is-
plan.
what is
the plan?
You see how crazy it sounds.
What
But
is the plan?
Angie's a perfect example. That's a perfect example right there. There are people around you that are waiting to elevate you and available to elevate you, but you gotta have a good idea. So I don't ask for stupid things and stupid times. I just keep it.
Real humble person. You know what I'm saying?
What?
I mean, I'm like junior humble. I think it takes a certain amount of like humility and ego to like put this on every single day and do these jobs. But I will say for myself for the rest of the year, I can't call it. I think definitely post-pandemic, I don't think we can call much of anything.
True.
Just continuing to fortify all the different jobs that I do and all the different hats that I have to wear, like from DJing to being radio personality to wanting to do a little bit more TV to always wanting to give back. Like I fortify all these things because they make me feel good in different ways. So as long as I can continue to do all 5 things at once, I keep enjoying it. But, I always, to Angie's point of redirection, like Angie's definitely somebody that I tap on very often for redirection. There's so many times in which she has used my frustrations against me and with me and for me and to me to redirect it into something a little bit more positive. And so like that's something that can be adapted in your every single day life, whether it's I'm sitting in traffic and I'm mad about the fact that I got to sit in traffic. You better redirect your energy to them emails that you needed to respond to or redirect it into that song that you've been needing to finish writing. There are so many ways to just redirect and keep moving. So whether you're feeling biased or discriminated upon, there's always some way to redirect that energy and there's always a different way to get it done.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, redirection.
So
What?
You need like you need to like redirect you
All
or
right.
something like
Ooh,
the redirection brand.
redirect will be the name of it.
Yeah, redirection with Ange.
so
Redirection with
I just love the way you guys give back and the way y'all come into the youth the way that y'all do. So if there's anybody out there that's want to get into where you guys are or even close to it, what advice could y'all give them?
Start. Literally started every single day. There are 7-year-olds with iPhones. There's little
boy.
there's Jazzy getting interviews with Jay-Z. So like for that, there's like no excuse or reason as to why you should not be doing this. You have the same 24 hours in the day. You have a powerful voice, perspective, view, a phone, an Instagram. All of these things, you have every reason to impress upon someone like me, but even better than me, there's somebody that's ready to give you a job because you have showed that you can do those jobs and do those things. So really just get your weight up and start fortifying your talents. Be something that is in demand, that people want to hire. So do something.
Yeah.
I heard it first. Do something.
Do
You know what I'm
something.
saying? So
Do
thank you all
something.
for tuning
Yes,
into
thank
the
you
second episode of the
guys.
podcast. Shout out to Mr. Bobby and the
Mr.
Humanities
Bobby.
Department. And again, shout out to Ange and Little Bacon Bear for coming out and supporting and spending some time with us today. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel.
Also, want to shout out the Humanities Department and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Owl Newspaper.
Our newspaper.
We will see you guys next.
Whoa, what about our Instagrams? Hold up. See, I'm teaching Ange to be an influencer. So where can we follow you, Ange? Where can we follow you?
At Go Angie, all one word on Instagram. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should I provide my business email?
Yeah, provide your
Yes.
business email.
Can we
Do what
email
gotta
you?
do.
No.
Are you looking for any types of good ideas?
I am. I'm always looking for good ideas, but yeah, you could pitch me. You could do some pitching, because that's the cool thing about my role now is now I get to hire people.
She gets to hire
Ooh.
people.
Yeah, I
on,
never
you
have to.
setting
Come
it
on.
up.
Come on, I
Come
get
on.
to hire people. I get to green light projects, and I get to set up. And it's a lot of work, but that's what excites me now is the idea that like I can set a budget and if Bacon has an idea, being able to say, okay, here's Bacon's idea, here's our budget, let's do this. I'm with this, let's do it, and see where it goes, So I'm very happy to be in that space. I'm just learning how to maneuver and grow with it, because HUT is a PBS channel, right? It's a PBS station, so we have the ability to help programs go national as well that come from here. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But yeah, 38madisonmedia.com is the website. You can always reach out from the website.
All you artists out there, you student athletes, make sure y'all go reach out.
Yeah,
She might help
stop
you out.
playing, better
She
stop
might help you out if
playing.
you got a plan. You know what I'm saying?
we know how to
a plan, a
amplify.
vision, and some execution.
Come on, you need all of that.
For me,
Let me advise you. I will. I'm a good advisor.
she gonna redirect y'all, right?
You want to shout your Instagram out? Anything you want to shout out?
Coming.
For me, at Little Bacon Bear, at littlebaconbear.com, to DMV artists that are trying to get their song on the radio. I've been doing that for 5 years. Got like almost 100 DMV artist interviews. All about doing and connecting the people with the artists that they love. So I'm going to continue
Definitely.
doing that. littlebaconbear.com.
Slay. Thank you guys so
Thank y'all
much.
for coming out.
See y'all next Thursday.
If you like drama, we got it. If you like sports, yeah, we got it. You like politics, promise we got it. Report everything hot at this college. PG News, yeah, right off the press. Reporters and filmers, PG got the best. Information that you need is reported.